Hello everyone, Kireth here, and I bet you've never seen a review video that looks like this. But this is the initial impressions review of the GT Omega Sim Racing rig cockpit, whatever you want to call it, the GT Omega Prime. It's a top of the range rig. I'm very lucky because they got in touch with me and asked me if I wanted one and if I could give them any feedback about it. They didn't ask me to make a video, they haven't asked me to say anything, but here we go. Like I always do, I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on this product so you can know if you're looking to buy something like this, what's good about it and what can be improved about it and what to look out for. And by the way, a big thanks to everyone who likes, subscribes, supports the channels. Because of you that these companies get in touch and post stuff to me. So thank you everyone who's liked, subscribed. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you get something good out of the videos. Right, let's start with the GT Omega Prime rig. I want to talk about how it is to build. I want to talk about how it is to race on. I want to talk about how it is to customize. And I want to talk about how it is compared to my old playseat challenge, which I had for 5 years. So to build, this is an 80/20 aluminium rig. There's quite a few companies that make rigs based on 80/20 aluminium. So GT Omega, SimLab, Track Racer, Next Level Racing, probably a load of other companies that I've forgotten as well. But not all of these rigs are made equally, actually. And I've experienced this because my integrated monitor mount is from Track Racer. And I'm going to tell you a few things that were different in the Track Racer build for the monitor mount from the GT Omega Prime build, which is basically everything you see here. Now, the way 80/20 aluminium works is you have these long extrusions of aluminium, 80/20, I guess. I never actually measured it, but I presume that's where the name comes from. And you basically have these T-nuts and these, what I guess are 10mm M10 bolts. You slot in the T-nut into these slots here, and the spring kind of goes back and it sits in flush. And then you screw in your M10 bolt and you use a lot of these corner brackets to basically attach everything to each other. Now, if you grew up and you really liked Meccano, K-Nex, Lego, that kind of stuff, you will actually really enjoy building this. I actually don't like building IKEA furniture. I find it quite tedious, all the little wooden bits. But I really enjoy building this. It's a very satisfying thing to connect two of these bits of aluminium together and be like, wow, that is really, really strong. And that's what happened with these corner brackets. I think they say that the triangle is the strongest structure. So you put these corner brackets in here, you screw them in. So one for this bit, one for this bit, and it will not budge. Anything that's 80/20 on this rig will not budge. It will not move at all. So very simple to put this together. You've got your long extrusions here. The back of this is a seat, the front is the pedals, and you have two that go up, and in between that you have your wheel deck. Now the pedal deck and the wheel deck are the only bits of the rig that aren't really 80/20 aluminium. We'll get onto those. But I want to start with the seat because this is probably the biggest quality of life difference from my playseat challenge. I made my review video on the playseat challenge. We gave it an 8 out of 10. We really liked it. But one of the drawbacks was getting in and out of the seat is really difficult, especially if you've got it in a corner. This has honestly been a game changer. Having a seat that reclines, having a seat that slides back and forth, just makes so much of a difference. So when I'm racing, I have it pushed up, so I have my racing kind of arms and legs bent how I like them. And then when I need to get out, every time I just lift up the bar at the back, at the front, and I slide the seat back, and I get out with no issues at all. My knees aren't going to hit the wheel; they're not going to hit the table next to it, and it just makes it a nice place to be. It's easy to get into, easy to get out of it, and it's actually now fundamentally changed how I make my content, because now I make my content sitting in here. So my microphone is here. I no longer need to move it. My camera's there. I'll be able to do more videos where I have the camera kind of looking at me as I'm recording a video. It's fundamentally changed my HQ of content creation, which is great. And I actually even play games here sometimes as well. So I'll just fire up the PlayStation on here and play some first-person shooters, some Warzone, stuff like that. It's a very comfy seat. Now, one element that I don't think it's as good at on the playseat challenge is I don't think it quite has a lumbar support the playseat challenge has, because the playseat challenge, which you can maybe see here in the background, kind of really hugs your back. You get really good lumbar support, whereas this is a regular chair, you don't have that. It does have these two eyelets, so probably what I'll do is I'll put a lumbar support pillow and attach it. But I did want to mention that. The other thing when we're talking about drawbacks is it's obviously a big chunky boy. So if you don't have the space for this, well, basically work out if you've got the space for it. I would say if you can fit it in, and I basically have like 10 mil of space, 10 mil of space either side, like a centimetre either side, and it just fits in, and it's so good I'm able to fit it in, because you can fundamentally step up your level of sim racing from a very flimsy place it challenge that the kind of the best thing about the place challenge is portability. But if you have the space where you can put something in permanently, this is levels and levels and levels and levels and levels above. It really is. And a lot of that comes from the stability. So let's talk about those two bits that are not 80/20, the pedal deck and the wheel deck. You might see some reviews on YouTube where people put like a slow motion camera and they try and see if there's any flex on the pedal deck. I can tell you, coming from a Playseat Challenge, there is zero perceptible flex in that pedal deck compared to my Playseat Challenge. And from a speed perspective, I don't think this rig necessarily makes you faster immediately, but it's definitely made me more consistent. I've noticed that I can jump into GT Sport or iRacing, especially iRacing, and just be on my consistent pace immediately. Whereas in the Playseat Challenge, sometimes it was difficult to get into that zone because of the way the pedals were maybe angled a bit weird, or the pedal kind of tray had gone off at a slight angle, or the pedals were leaning off or something like that. Whereas this, every time I jump in, I have exactly the same position with no flex, and I just have that consistency. So when you combine that with the Fanatec V3 load cells I've got, it genuinely is a game changer for my racing, and I feel much more confident now going into a race with less practice, because I feel like a few laps of practice, that's all I need to go through all the corners, and I know where to brake and I know whatnot. Whereas with the Playseat Challenge, you actually needed to kind of like bed in the Playseat Challenge every time you raced in it. So when I was doing streaming and when I was doing a stream and I hadn't had a lot of practice, it was always a bit, oh, hang on, hopefully I'm going to feel comfortable in my setup. Don't have that problem here at all. So absolute game changer if you can fit it. Same with the wheel deck as well. That's not 80/20 aluminium. That's like a plate of aluminium. I can't tell any flexor either. I think it could handle the DD pretty easily. I've got the CSL Elite. One thing I would like on that deck, I've got a Stream Deck on the left hand side, that thing with all the logos. I would like a bit of space for a mouse on the right hand side. If they could just extend it and I could put a little mouse pad, that would be absolutely great. Because what I've got to do is put my mouse up here, which isn't that easy to get to. There is a shifter mount down here that I haven't attached that I could possibly put a mouse pad on, but it's not that elegant. So I think realistically, anyone who's using this is probably going to, on PC anyway, is probably going to be using their mouse. If they could incorporate a mouse bit onto the wheel deck, that would be absolutely superb. I'll need to find somewhere to put my keyboard as well, because there's no space for a keyboard there. But yeah, so for me, there's no flex in the pedal deck. There's no flex in the wheel deck. That's absolutely great. You do get a bit of flex in this seat here. So you may see when I'm streaming or making videos that this will push back when I go on the brakes. Not really sure if I'm bothered by that or not. All I need to do really is unscrew this thing here and then try and retighten the bolts. So I'm not sure if it's a feature. But anyway, I have noticed there is flex there back and forwards. But fundamentally, it's such a stable platform. I feel like this is now the base of what I do in sim racing. So if you've got the budget and you're thinking, should I go for a Playseat Challenge, but I could afford an 80/20 rig and I've got the space for it, definitely consider something like the GT Mega Prime or some equivalent. I can vouch for the Prime because I've got it. It was easy to put together and it's absolutely solid. Now I want to talk about build quality. So I did notice, and I don't know if I got a bad batch from Track Racer or it's different because it's a monitor mount, so there's a bit more fiddly bits. But I did notice when I bought my integrated monitor mount from Track Racer, which also uses 80/20 aluminium, when I opened the box, I was surprised by the fact that there was no paper manual, which I found was a bit weird. I had to use my phone. Whereas with the GT Omega rig, you get a paper manual, which I think should be standard when you're building something like this. And the other thing is when I took out the aluminium, a lot of aluminium shavings came out of the box. They're very fine metal shavings. And I was a bit concerned by that because they're so sharp they can scratch your phone screen because you have to use your phone for the manual, or they can scratch other stuff you might have lying around. I didn't get that in the GT Omega one. There were no aluminium shavings, but I don't know if I got a good batch from GT Omega and a bad batch from Track Racer. But either way, something to watch out for. Just check if you've got aluminium shavings. If you do, then be careful how you take it out. Something else I just remembered that I wanted to talk about was the one bit I got confused about when I was building the GT Omega Prime was this corner here. Was one of the first corners I did. I couldn't get one of these to screw in properly. I was just absolutely perplexed. Like, why can't I get this screw in? I kept taking it out and trying it. The reason is, and this is the top tip if you buy one of these, most of the bolts are this length. But there's about 4 or so that are actually a little bit longer. But they all came in the same bag. And I didn't realise I'd put a longer bolt in here because they look very similar, and actually they're not that much longer. but because it was just a little bit longer, it wouldn't screw in flush. So when you take out your bolts, just bear in mind that a couple of them, 4 of them I think will be a little bit longer, just separate them. When you put your bolts in your neat tray, or if you're a human, when you put them on the floor, as I do. But there we go, just wanted to talk about that because that was something that I was confused about when I built it. Something else that I think could be improved, but it's not a massive deal breaker, is I would love it if it came with some integrated carpet mounts on the bottom. Not the easiest thing to move on carpet because it is fairly heavy. You do get these kind of vanity covers to cover the sharp aluminium at the end. They tend to dig in a little bit, so if I could have some carpet size, that'd be great. I'm going to have to go and buy some separately. But basically, once you built it, once it's in situ, it's just you can see here, it's just become my home for sim racing. I've got my Stream Deck, I've got my webcam, got my Go XLR, I've got my microphone attached to it, pedals there obviously, wheel, Samsung monitor. It's just, I've got cables being routed around the back through some of the extrusion. It's just my new fundamental home for sim racing, and everything else I do in sim racing is built around it. So I can honestly say that I have no regrets about obviously taking up the offer from GT Omega, but even if I'd bought it, I would have no regrets for the, I think 570 or whatever the price is, GBP. It is absolutely solid, and I see no reason to upgrade it. I'm going to be upgrading lots of other equipment before I upgrade this. This is kind of like the motherboard, if that makes sense, for PC equivalent. So we talked about what it's like to build, which is fairly easy. We talked about what it's like to race on, which is great. We talked about a couple of drawbacks, like it's not the easiest to move on carpet. I need to add some number support here. Customization, this is a bit that I'm really intrigued by. Because it's 80/20 aluminium, you can customize this almost infinitely, and I'm going to be customizing it a lot. So I want to be mounting my Go XLR, I want to be mounting my Stream Deck, I want to be mounting my microphone a bit more solidly, so I can basically just drag this rig around, and it has everything on it, which is why I went for an integrated monitor mount. And I'm really looking forward to doing that, because my old setup, as you may have seen, everything was kind of hanging off. I had some shower hose I had to use for the microphone, whereas this again can just become everything sim racing is on this thing, which I think is absolutely great. If you have any questions about this rig, do let me know in the comments. I try my best to reply to every comment. I really appreciate the time that you spend watching the videos and the effort you in asking your questions, so I feel like I'm obliged to try to respond to as many as I can. But otherwise, you've got a good look of the rig here, lots of juicy B-roll as well. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to have to give it a score. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. We gave the place heat an 8 out of 10. I'm going to give the GT Omega Prime rig a 9 out of 10 just because I think structurally it is so solid, which is what you want your sim rig to do. I feel like it is not flexing at all. It can handle better equipment. It's easy to get in and out of. It looks pretty good as well, and it's kind of like matches black aluminium. And I'm going to be deducting a point for the fact that it's not that easy to move on carpet. Maybe a lumbar support pillow would be great as well. What else didn't we particularly like about it? It's not really not a lot that I don't like. It's like my Fanatec equipment. There's not a lot I don't like about it. It's one of those pieces of equipment that you're like, yes, that is a nice piece of equipment I have. Doesn't really have any drawbacks. It's solid. You know, there's no problems with it. It's just going to sit there and do its job. It's not going to break. It's not going to flex. Job done. You know, sim rig done. And when you're someone like me who's doing content creation streaming and I've got to upgrade all sorts of different bits, having stuff that's just solid and does its job, like my Fanatec stuff, is so good. It's why I've gone more Elgato now with my streaming equipment, because they're solid as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been fun making it. Let me know what you thought of this style, as I'm kind of sitting behind the seat. It's like I've been relegated, and the GT Omega Prime rig is now actually the star of the channel, and I've now moved in. I've moved like back of camera. I'm now like a showrunner, as they say in showbiz. But yeah, I like it. I did a review of my PC the other day, and I remember finishing that one by being like, yeah, I really like this PC. And it's the same feeling here. I really like this rig. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. These are my honest thoughts. I'm very glad that I've got a solid rig as part of my sim racing hub now. It just means I can focus more on making content, streaming, getting better at sim racing. And if you are thinking about getting one of these, do let me know if you've got any questions. I probably have an affiliate link somewhere, but basically, if you think about getting one, ask me any questions. I can let you know my honest thoughts. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.